We are in conversation today with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, here to talk to us about a range of issues affecting policing in the province. General, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Maybe let's just start from way back. You've been in the province for a while now, and how have you found the experience since you took over the province of KwaZulu-Natal as a Provincial Commissioner?
It's very interesting. Interesting in the sense that there are many challenges. They differ. You will have administrative challenges that you have to face, which is in-house. You have labor issues that perhaps not as much that you have to deal with, but more importantly, the type of cases we're dealing with out there. There's different challenges. There's no day that is the same. So today we deal with this, tomorrow it's deal with another thing. So it's quite exciting, and it's been good since I've been here as well.
And I think we can see it on a daily basis with you out and about on the streets fighting crime. Without giving too much of the operational plan, what has been your strategy in terms of tackling crime in the province?
Yeah, when I was here in 2018, for the year when I was acting, I got to experience some of the challenges that the province is facing. And when I had the opportunity to go back to the head office, I sat and I thought about what is the best way of dealing with problems in the province. So that's why I requested that I come down here, so I can be able to implement some of my plans. Fortunately, the Provincial Commissioner and Minister approved for me to come down. So what basically we try to deal with in this place is to focus on these 20% of criminals that are creating havoc in the province. Because the big majority of the citizens are not necessarily involved, but you have to deal with a small group. They organize in nature, and there's different groupings, whether it's within the tax industry, whether it's vehicle crime, whether it's stock theft, or drug, those type of cases that we have to deal with in the province. So in approaching it, we had to form different teams to assist different stations in dealing with these major cases. So what you see activities more happening on the street, the majority of the things you read about are not necessarily the duties that are done by the normal patrol vehicle, but it's different intervention teams that will formulated within different districts.
And I think we can see it already yielding results. And KZN has seen its fair share also of multiple murders. But with your leadership, I think it seems to be getting better, or you're getting a grip on crime, and the image of the police is being restored. How are you doing this?
Yeah, well, remember, the National Commission will always demand that we deal with any incident that happens of crimes, and we must respond if there's any criminal incident that happens. So, of course, not all the things that we can do ourselves as SAPS KZN, we need support also from the head office. So, and we've been fortunate that we've been receiving those type of support, both from intelligence perspective as well as deployments that the National Commission has approved for us to be able to be assisted. As if I name a few, we've been able to deal with vehicle crime, especially in one of the districts of Mkhwanazi. And that was largely because of the support that we got from the head office, from the National Commission, deploying the resources here. And also within the biggest district, like eThekwini, working close between all different disciplines, including the DPCI and the main crime intelligence involved, and ORS divisions, that members that are part of it. So we've been able to deal with hardened criminals and be able to follow them up. When the incident has happened, we follow it quickly. If the incident has not happened, we are still getting information and we're passing it through to the technical teams, and they have been able to respond quickly. And that has been, I think, our strong point, that we have these groups of members that have been focused. And then also then encouraging those that are working in the station, because they themselves have been approaching this crime fighting with extra commitment. And I think the support maybe is also contributed by the fact that there's quite a lot of youngsters that we've brought into the service, and they still have energy, and they are out there, they're trying to make a difference.
Yeah, and I think our job is to prevent, to combat, and also to investigate crime. Sometimes that means that the members will be out there to face the hardened criminals that you just alluded to now. And you continuously have to encourage your members to always be relentless in the pursuit of justice in trying to deal with this crime. How do you do it in terms of encouraging your members to be relentless in the pursuit of justice?
We try to communicate for every time the members come on duty and they stand on the parade. It's important for them to get to know what happened, incidents that will have happened in the province and also the rest of the country that affects the police. So wherever the police were attacked, we need to communicate with the members as a common duty that there was this attack that happened in that policing area, whether it's in the province or in another province, so the members are aware that these criminals, they behave in this fashion when they're out on the street. That only improves them to survive. It assists them to survive more on the street. Everyone that you see on the street is a potential criminal. So you need to approach with that alertness. If you stop a vehicle, you must always be ready that someone in that vehicle might come out and shoot you. And this has happened. So it is that type of approach that has helped us perhaps maybe to stay alive in many instances. But although we've had some shooting incidents that has been affecting our members whilst on duty, some of them, but majority off duty, there are incidents of that nature. But by and large, I can say that we've been having an upper hand in dealing with crime.
Yeah. And I have heard you saying your job as the Provincial Commissioner most of the time requires you to be in meetings and in boardrooms, but you rather prefer to strategize less and implement more operationally. That's an accurate description of how you approach policing, correct?
Yeah, well, definitely. You can't spend 365 days planning. You have to execute. Unfortunately, we are forced to sit and do administration in the office like this, but you have to dedicate certain days where you're going to do admin and some days where you're going to focus on operations on the ground. Because it doesn't help that you're going to have trust over the station commanders, the unit commanders, the districts or the deputies to do the job. You sometimes need to go physical and get to see whether things are happening or not happening. And also get to experience sometimes things that the communities are experiencing in interacting with the police, whether the services that perhaps communities are complaining about, are they speaking the truth if they're complaining, so that if there are challenges, you're able to come up with interventions to improve those situations.
Yeah, and I think the SAPS as a whole, we face a conundrum where communities are pleading with us to deal with crime decisively and prevent crime and help them or defend them and protect them. But sometimes when you do that, it means that we have to face the criminals head on, and sometimes there's a bit of fire that must be exchanged, and then they're accusing us of then saying you're being heavy-handed or you're trigger-happy or whatever. What is your view on that in terms of how we tell our communities that actually this is what we are constitutionally mandated to do?
Yeah, well, we try by all means for every platform that we have, through imbizos or any meetings that we attend, or when we go around patrolling on the street, that we interact with communities and try and lecture. What we experience the most is that majority of the people don't necessarily understand the law of the country. And not understanding the law of the country, you can imagine the supreme law of the Constitution is also not going to be understood. Because if people understood what is contained in the Constitution under Section 205, subsection 3 of the Constitution, which mandates the SAPS of what to do. At one stage, someone challenged me that I used the word combat, that the police were ready to combat on the street, combat crime on the street. And it actually is written like that on the Constitution. So once you're in a combat mode, it means you're in a fighting mode. We're not going to be negotiating. It is there, it's contained in the Constitution, but when we execute, those so-called experts, they feel that we are a bit tough to criminals, and they forget that ours applying those toughness, it is because we have to respond to the threat that is given to our members. If there's no threat, we also operate a soft approach. So we have different strategies, as you know. Our crime differs from dealing with gender-based violence issues, dealing with matters of families at times where they're in conflict with each other. And then these hardened criminals that are out there to rob people and stuff like that. So how we approach into those criminal situations differs.
And let's just turn the page a little bit and talk about the issue of extortion. I know that KZN is one of the provinces that is affected amongst other provinces. Are we seeing a rise in those cases, or have we just zoomed into them now specifically, or it's always been a problem that maybe we just didn't maybe talk about more?
Yeah, well, I think this is a problem that's been there and it hasn't been covered as much in the media until of late. In 2018, when I was here, I got to experience those challenges. It's a problem that started when there was a policy that came from National Treasury that recommends that a person who wins a tender is going to operate in a certain place must consider the 30% of that total contract to be awarded to the local people to benefit from. So that's what has always been the fight about. And because some people felt, or business people in the province were saying, and I think it was mainly here in KZN where they started driving this 30% and say, but we want to know who's benefiting from the 30% within government. And it became less when it goes to the private sector. And they would visit construction site and they would ask the same question to the private contractors, to who's benefiting, who's a local person benefiting 30% out of this. And that's where this whole thing started. And slowly, I think senior government officials started allowing these people to benefit from this 30%. And you remember, there's even the name of some forums that started here, which were called Amadea Bond and so forth, because they were really aggressive in terms of fighting over that. But with time, as the police started engaging with businesses and encouraging business to report such incidents, and we've improved our response in terms of such cases, we have seen a reduction in terms of the violence nature of it. It's still happening, it has not completely gone off, but we've seen a drop. Although we spread to the rest of the country, but I think the heart was in KZN when we started. So we try by all means to be one step ahead on that. In our approach in the main is that for every business, if there's such people that come to your space to intimidate you and want to get a certain share of your business, phone us while they are still there, so that you can find them red-handed in your premises. And in so doing, we were able to deal with it.
So it's possible that these protection fees that the businesses pay, small businesses, sponsors, might have gotten into it either voluntarily without actually realizing what the implications of this is when it started. Then later, now that we're speaking about it, they realize actually that was extortion, but they've not been coerced into it.
Yeah. There's other people that, as far as yesterday, there's a company that received a business and they started at the beginning of the month and they pulled out yesterday. I only get to know after they pulled out. Then they tell me that they pulled out of an operation. So, but they've been trying to engage with the local business people who were saying, how come you come into our area to get a contract coming from far, whereas we have the same services around it? Instead of dealing with the client or the person who actually owns this job, they deal with the contractor that applied. But the contractor had been entertaining them until he decides to pull out. Only when he pulls out, he then alerts us. So when I asked him, I said, but you tell us after, let's go and have a meeting and so resolve this in once and for all and open the case. He said, no, I don't want to open the case. I said, let's go to the meeting. He was interested to go to the meeting, but unfortunately, the company that were employed him said because he done the job, they're looking for someone else. He should have contacted us so that we intervened earlier. So he has lost the business as a result of such. So, but what we try and communicate to the business that don't get involved in discussions with these people who are extorting money. Don't get involved. If they approach you first time around, tell us so that we can be able to deal with it.
And these individuals or groups that are identified extortionists, do we have like a profile of who are the kind of people you mentioned earlier on that sometimes it's just so-called powerful people in the community who then become the extortionists by definition? Do we have sort of like a profile of who are the extortionists in the main?
No, look, the type of extortion that happens differs. There are big corporates that are dealing with big projects. For instance, you see on national roads, there's a lot of construction work happening. So people that are going to be invited to play in that space might be a high-profile local business people, and in the majority you get taxi bosses nowadays that are also part of these contracts that are happening there. But it becomes difficult for us to register cases or even effect arrests and such, because some big corporate will go to these well-known tax bosses and they'll say, I'm giving you a certain percentage to protect the work I'm doing. And the taxi boss will do that. You receive the money every month and you make sure that this operation is not disturbed. And these big corporates then end up maximizing on the profit because he's got instead of sharing this 30%, he shares 5%. And he keeps the rest because the person he's sharing with is well known in the area. So therefore, he gets his 5%. If a project is 100 million rand, 5 million rand coming clean like that without you having to do anything, it's a lot of money. So they get protection, these big operators as result on that. But that is in big scale. You have a lot of these youngsters who either drop out of school or families that don't have, that are not stable anymore, parents are not there. So these youngsters, as they grow up and they decide to solicit money from the church shops, especially these foreign-owned church shops, and they become again their own. And then they go from one church shop to another church shop collecting, extorting money. So that's a different setup again. And sometimes then they get involved in drugs, selling drugs. They end up fighting with each other. That's why we find these multiple murders because of the competition they have amongst themselves. So we have those two groupings. Like I'm saying, the big corporate, there's certain people that are playing in that space, and the youngsters that are mostly on what's happening in the townships and they're part of extortion. So when we profile them, we deal with them in that different way.
And from the provincial SAPS here in KZN, your strong message to the extortionists.
I need to warn those extortionists that are out there, whether big corporate or small, you just stay away from somebody's properties. If you want to engage on business with people, write them something, send a proposal, or go and knock at their door and ask for support of some sort. I'm sure they will accommodate you. That's all we can ever do as the police.
And generally, as we wrap up our discussion, what would be your message to the residents of KwaZulu-Natal, just on how you have a grip on fighting crime in the province and the approach that you have taken and all the interventions that you put in place to make sure that you deal decisively with crime in this province?
Maybe first, before I speak to the residents, I need to speak to my fellow colleagues, members of the South African Police Service, those that have been working very hard in this past 3 years since I've been working with them in the province, that we must continue. We are not doing it for a salary. We are doing it for the love of the peace and security in our province. We are doing it for our own family members. We want to also walk and live in a safe environment. So our efforts in fighting crime must be focused on creating a safe environment for our own families and everyone else that lives in this province. So we must continue working hard, and we cannot, knowing as civil servants, government doesn't have much budget. So you cannot therefore say, if there's no overtime, I'm not going to put more extra effort. You must always be available, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for society. You are giving the service to society, the very same society where you live, and you need to benefit out of it. A majority of the colleagues, they go on retirement, and when they're on retirement, they start complaining about the police not responding to things. And the question would be, what legacy did they leave behind before they went on retirement? Did they make these young women and men to be more responsible in fighting crime, so that when they are off on retirement, these members they left behind are able to perform to the satisfactory level? So we can only do that as police officers by working hard and creating an environment that everyone will live peacefully. For the community, which is our client, and without them, we're nothing. And without them, majority of the time, the information of the criminals that you're looking for, we will not get because of they live amongst the community. So the community of this province have been upfront giving us information about criminal syndicates and activities that are taking place, and we've been responding to that. We want to encourage them to give us more information.
General, thank you very much for the insightful discussion.
Thanks so much.
That was Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, talking to us about a whole range of issues that we face as the police, especially in this province. Remember, there's also the Extortion National Hotline, 0800 911 011. You can also use the same Crime Stop number, 08600 10 111. Until next time, goodbye.